Thank you so much for coming out today. Today, in accordance with our policy, we will be releasing the body-worn camera package footage from two critical incidents events. First is the critical incident crash in Hybla Valley, and next will be the non-fatal officer-involved shooting in Burke. First, we will show you the videos, and then Chief Davis will come out to provide remarks and answer any questions you may have.
At 8:39 p.m. on September 23rd, officers from the Mount Vernon District Station were dispatched to Richmond Highway and Belford Drive in Hybla Valley for a call of a pedestrian struck. A witness reported that a black Mercedes struck Trina Jones of Alexandria and left the scene. While arriving at the scene, a Fairfax County police cruiser struck Jones, who was still lying in the roadway.
Please do not tell me I just ran her over.
Fairfax County Fire and Rescue was on scene and immediately began performing life-saving measures. Trina Jones was transported to a local hospital where she was later pronounced deceased. At 10:13 p.m. on September 28th, officers from the West Springfield District Station were dispatched to the 9700 block of Church Way in Burke for a call for a man armed with chainsaws. An intoxicated man, locked outside his home by his mother, was reported to be destroying property while armed with chainsaws, an axe, and a propane torch.
Alpha, can we confirm that the parents are still inside and barricaded?
Yeah. Fairfax County Police, can you come talk to us?
All right, yeah. I'm cool.
All right, you don't have anything in your hands, do you?
Bro, I got my phone.
All right.
Can you just put your phone down for us?
Can you just come down and talk to us? With nothing in your hands?
I'm gonna stay on my property.
Okay, that's fine. You can just come down to the edge of your drive.
Come up here. Come on.
You can just come over here to the edge of the grass.
No, not doing it. Not tricky. You did me that last time.
Can you just come to the back side of the cars?
Mount Vernon. It ended up, I was at Mount Vernon. You tricked me.
I just want to make sure that we can see your hands, okay? That's all.
No, I'm not trying to kill myself again.
Okay.
Crisis intervention trained officers continued to negotiate with the man. During the negotiations, the man retrieved a blowtorch and continued to ignore the officer's commands.
Lighter.
I'm good.
Hey, Hey, that's a little bit of an overkill.
Can you just light it and then put it back down?
Yeah.
Kind of good.
Can you light it and then put it back down?
Yeah, I'll bring it to you guys.
No, it's okay.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
We don't need it.
Come back out here, please. We were doing a really great job, and this was going really well, and we just want to keep talking to you. Okay. You gonna put it down? Awesome. Thank you.
The man retreated into the garage and closed the door. Officers then removed the chainsaws from the man's immediate vicinity.
I have to call my girlfriend and say goodbye for the final time. Yeah.
So, but here's the thing. You're not going to be able to go back inside. Your parents, your mom's not going to let you go back inside. Oh. Yeah, me too. Yeah, let's grab the chainsaw. Oh God, there's more than one.
As officers continued negotiations, the man retrieved a gun. He racked the slide, placed the weapon in his waistband, and ignored repeated commands to disarm himself.
We got something.
Hey, what do you have in your hands?
No.
Come back out.
Get out.
Let I see your hand. You can't get out. Let I see your hand.
Oh, that sounded like something racking. Hey guys, back up. Yeah. Hey. I got your chainsaws right here.
He's got a gun.
Hey guys, he's got a gun in his waistband.
What?
Hey,
What's up?
cover.
What does he got?
No, stop! Stop!
Is it a BB gun?
What?
What kind of gun is it?
E226. My motherfucking G.
Okay.
C. It's a C, and I'm fucking G's a G.
Okay.
Love
Okay. Can you just go ahead and put it down?
it. Stop. A second.
Yes. I'm listening.
I want to get you out.
Okay.
I'm not doing anything wrong, Jennifer.
Okay.
I was a nice guy. Don't arrest me. Right here. I just noticed him.
So that's somebody different. That's another one of my officers. He's got a phone and he's listening to the radio for me because I'm talking to you.
Look, I'm a pretty cool sniper.
Okay.
I'm a pretty cool dude.
Yeah, were you in the military?
What?
Well, you said that you were, a pretty cool dude. You have a, you said you were a sniper. Were you in the military? Hey, if he comes back over here, just go ahead and get behind the shield because I think that is a real gun at this point. You go up with them so you have the shield, please. Yeah, we need lethal too. Somebody has the shield, somebody has lethal.
After 48 minutes, an officer used less than lethal beanbag projectiles on the armed man. An officer then discharged her firearm, striking the man in the lower body.
Yeah, we got your chainsaws. Let's go ahead. You want to go ahead and get those? Let's lethal. Let's lethal.
Take a shot. Impact low, impact low, impact low.
Fucking assholes!
We need to make sure you're okay. Where are you? Blowout kit.
Okay, guns right here, guns right here, guns right here.
Okay.
Get out, dude! Out, dude! Out! Just chill.
Officers rendered first aid to the man until fire and rescue personnel arrived on scene. He was taken to a nearby hospital and treated for a non-fatal gunshot wound. After receiving care, he was held on a temporary detention order.
Alcohol?
Oh yeah, intoxicated alcohol. Yeah. Do we need a quick clap?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. Two videos. First, just let me say to the family, friends, loved ones, neighbors of Trina Jones, whose life was lost on Richmond Highway, that we're thinking about the family. We're thinking about her. We're praying for them. It's never a good thing when a police department anywhere in America has contact with a citizen, a resident, a community member, anyone for that matter, and a life is lost. So we take it very seriously. And just to describe the system that I believe is world class, it's certainly a system that many police departments attempt to emulate across the country, that follows a critical incident like both of these critical incidents. The entities that are involved, not just from the Fairfax County Police Department, are robust, to say the least, and best in practice. Our Major Crimes Bureau conducts a criminal investigation. Our Internal Affairs Bureau conducts an administrative investigation. Our Performance Review Board looks at things like training and equipment to see if there's immediate improvements that need to be made. Our Commonwealth's Attorney's Office, and in fact the Commonwealth's Attorney himself, reviews it and makes a decision on whether to pursue a prosecution or not. And we have an independent police auditor in Fairfax County who looks at these cases as well. So there's a lot of eyes. We think there's a lot of objectivity. There's certainly the pursuit of science and facts, video, audio, witnesses, etc. So we're committed to that process. Sometimes that process doesn't move as quickly as people would like it to move, and that's okay because we want to certainly get it right. Regarding the Richmond Highway incident, we are still looking for the black Mercedes C300 that made contact with Trina Jones in the intersection on Richmond Highway. There's a picture of it. I think we're going to distribute it again in our information package to the media. We know that there's paper or temporary tags attached to that C300 black Mercedes. I can say that that investigation is underway and there's significant progress in that investigation, but we have still not located, recovered, examined, processed the vehicle for evidence, and we really, really want to do that. So we encourage anyone with information regarding the whereabouts of that black Mercedes 300 to please give us a call. We've had tremendous success recently with Crime Solvers, with a number of different cases, and we're hopeful that someone will recognize that car, take another look at it, and call us if you know anything about it. You can see on the video that there are numerous other persons present in the roadway at the intersection. I believe our detectives have captured and interviewed and taken written statements from all of those folks, at least the ones who stayed on the scene. And I'll share this with you because it was traumatic for them as well. Certainly for Trina Jones, that outcome was not an outcome that anyone intended, to include our officer, who is a stellar young police officer assigned to the Mount Vernon district. It's a traumatic incident for him. I don't want to compare and contrast what the Jones family is going through, because that's certainly something that is devastating to the family. But what the young police officer goes through, it's equally challenging and traumatic to him as well. And two things can be true at the same time. So those two things are absolutely true at the same time. The witnesses, several witnesses, you see them as our police car approaches the intersection. The statements that we've taken so far, and I want to be transparent about this, they, to their credit, did their very best to talk to, encourage, and cajole Ms. Jones to get out of the roadway. So yes, Ms. Jones was alive when our police car made contact with her. We know that as a fact. We also know as a fact that the witnesses, those standing on the side of the roadway, were pleading with her to get out of the roadway. And from our witness statements, numerous witness statements that we've taken, apparently Ms. Jones indicated to them that she was going to wait for the police. Now that video moves quickly, and one thing that you probably can't see unless you watch it several times like we have, is there was a person who put his car in front of Ms. Jones, and it shielded her from oncoming traffic at that intersection. And when that person who used his car to shield Ms. Jones saw incoming police and fire vehicles, fire apparatuses, he then moved his car out of the way. So he pulled from the location where he was shielding Ms. Jones, pulled beyond her and pulled to the side of the road. You can even see his brake lights. So that's when our police officer, young police officer, again, stellar reputation, doing great things at the Mount Vernon district in the community, made contact with Ms. Jones. That contact ended up being fatal for Ms. Jones. We know the speed of the car at the time was between 14 miles per hour and 17 miles per hour. There's no indication that his driving was egregious. There's a lot going on at that intersection with the incoming, oncoming emergency equipment, fire, police, witnesses, et cetera. So you can even hear audibly the police officer say something to the effect that, "Please don't tell me that I just hit her." So that is a spontaneous comment by him. Certainly there was no intent on his part to make contact with another human being in the roadway. So again, I will pause momentarily for any questions about this incident. And as you look at our police department and how large we are and the community that we serve and the square miles that we cover, one of the things that the Performance Review Board is looking at is, how many miles, for instance, does the Fairfax County Police Department cover on any given day of the year? I mean, how many miles do we drive? And it's about 41,000 miles a day. Or in 2024, our police officers and detectives drove their cars 15 million miles in our 409 or so square miles. And from that, we know, and historically, the Fairfax County Police Department has gone and will continue to go above and beyond with how we train our police officers how to drive police cars. Not just pursuit driving, but everyday driving. We have a track that is used by police agencies, federal, state, and local, from around the region. We've invested in police cars from 2023 and beyond that have the best capabilities in terms of warning devices attached to the cars. We even have equipment or technology attached to our marked police cars that warn a police officer if a pedestrian is approaching him or her if their car is seated and parked at a location. So there's not a technology that we won't pursue to ensure that our driving is done as responsibly and safely as possible. And from this incident, there will undoubtedly be recommendations for us to pursue even more technology and more opportunities to be safe. So I will pause there and take any questions about Richmond Highway. Yes, sir. Josh.
Thank you, Chief. How badly was Ms. Jones hurt by the first impact? Any indication? I know maybe it's hard to.
It is hard to tell you. That's a logical question, Josh. So the question, and I'm told all the time I should repeat your questions because people can't hear it on Facebook. So the question, Josh, and thank you, how badly was Ms. Jones injured before, or if she was injured at all before our police car made contact with her? I don't know, but she wasn't injured to the point where she was incapacitated from interacting or speaking to the other persons who were on the side of the road, because they tell us, and again, our detectives take statements from these folks, they tell us that they were in conversation with her, encouraging her to get out of the roadway. But again, she indicated to them that she wanted to stay right where she was until the police arrived. Now, locating that black Mercedes is so important because is there any damage to it? Is there other evidence or DNA or indications of a collision that we could estimate the severity of that contact, if any? Was it incidental? Was it injurious? I don't know, and that's why it's so important to renew our plea to find this black Mercedes.
And do you know if there was one driver of that car? I know you said that you're still asking for the public's help, but potentially multiple people in that car, or any idea?
So definitely one driver, right?
Okay.
But in terms of passengers, in terms of passengers, I don't know. I don't know. Yes, sir. Daniel.
Yeah. So when you're talking about that he was going 14 miles an hour, and you see in the video that she's still in the middle of the road there, what was the communication like, whether that's to 911, to your officers, of where she was in the roadway as they were approaching?
Yeah, so that's a good question, Daniel. That's something the investigation will put a fine point on. Certainly, police and fire apparatuses, vehicles were approaching the intersection where she was described to have been struck. I think your particular question is, did that 911 call pinpoint exactly where she was as we were arriving? I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, but that's something that the investigation will certainly look at. Obviously, she was still in the roadway. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Chief.
Nana, yeah, okay.
Thank you. So I have two questions. I just want to piggyback off of Daniel really quickly. Was it communicated to dispatch that there was a car shielding Miss Jones? Obviously, you know that now, and I don't know if that's through witness interviews and statements, but the officer approaching, did he know?
No, I don't think so. So we know that now because we have in-car video cameras, because we have body cameras, because we have witnesses. But I don't believe, and someone's going to look at me and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that the that the presence of that citizen's vehicle in front of her was communicated to 911. I don't believe that was. Certainly, if we could go back and rewind the clock, it would have been ideal if we would have known that.
Okay. And then my follow-up is this photo of the black Mercedes. It looks like it was captured in daylight, unless the light was just very strong. So I know this happened in the evening, 8:39. Do we know where this photo was captured?
So thanks to emerging technologies, and particularly flock cameras, we can identify a vehicle and then go back to travel routes where that vehicle is captured before and after. And that vehicle was captured, and we're sure it's the same vehicle. And that picture, that still picture, was taken in daylight. So we're using that picture. We know it's the same vehicle because we followed the cookie crumbs backwards in time. But that picture, that still was captured in daylight.
So earlier, same day, just earlier.
Same day earlier. And again, and I can't say too much, but we are making significant progress in identifying the driver, and hopefully, if any passengers were there, the passengers as well. But we really need that car. Anybody else?
Chief, I have a question here. If you guys find out the driver, okay, because he hit the lady and did not proceed to help her, and he take off, but who killed her was, unfortunately, one of the police cars.
Yeah.
So what charge that driver gonna take it?
So right now, and I'm being a little speculative, and people don't like me to be speculative, but right now I believe the only potential charge is failure to stay at the scene of a crash. Now, that assumes the driver knows that he or she made contact with someone. So the extent the extent of the contact, was it incidental? Was it a passing glance or a brush between the car and a person in a crosswalk, which is not unusual in a busy place like Richmond Highway? The detectives would have to examine the vehicle and interview the person to even determine if the driver even knew that he made contact with Miss Jones. So that's all part of the complexities of any retrospective investigation. But we'd certainly like to find the car, because if there's any damage, that would indicate potentially that if there's a dent or some type of damage to the vehicle, the greater likelihood then that the driver may have probably known that he made contact with a person or an object. But again, to Trina Jones, the family, our hearts go out to them, and we mourn with them. Certainly nothing that we ever anticipate or look forward to. But in this profession, with the extent that we serve the community in our very mobile patrol force, in spite of our training and the sophistication of vehicles that's now better than ever rather, when these things occur, we don't just chalk it up to, well, that's part of the business of policing, because losing a life is never part of anybody's business model, and we certainly regret her death. Any other questions with Ms. Jones? Okay, so regarding the non-fatal officer-involved shooting of the 41-year-old man, and I'm not going to identify him because we never charged him with a crime, so I'm not going to identify him beyond a 41-year-old man. And just a couple hours ago, I spoke to his mother, and I can imagine her concern for her adult son. Her adult son was, and I think still lives with her and another sibling. In fact, it was the 41-year-old mom and the sibling who, after I think hours trying to calm down their loved one, made a decision to finally call 911 to get help on the scene. Now, we negotiated with this man for 48 minutes, but the interactions and the longevity of the interactions between the family and the police was lengthy. They were lengthy negotiations, interactions. The way we're structured as a police department now, we have more command rank on the street than ever before. So on this particular scene, if you can imagine or contemplating who was on the scene of this incident, we had a duty officer, the rank of major. We had a watch commander, the rank of lieutenant. We had a sergeant, and you hear that sergeant's voice, and I think she did a great job negotiating with this man. We have a co-responder team. That's always the question at these news conferences, press conferences. We had a co-responder on a team on the scene, and the co-responder team is a crisis intervention trained police officer. That officer ended up being the officer who discharged the lethal round that resulted in non-fatal injuries to this man. And we had a clinician. But when there's a scenario like this one, and not only is this man armed with what we later learned to be a replica firearm, even though, and you heard it and saw it, he was describing it as a Sig Sauer P226, which is a firearm, a lethal firearm. Even though he's describing it like that, it turned out it wasn't. He was armed with that replica firearm. He was armed at one time with 2 chainsaws. He was armed with a blowtorch, and you can see the blowtorch if you rewind it and watch it closely. He's even lighting his cigarette with his blowtorch. And he's armed with an axe. So all of our officers are confronted by all these realities, and the team we had on the scene would be just like we would draw it up on a chalkboard or a whiteboard in 2025. We had the leadership team there. We had the co-responder team there. We had the crisis intervention officer there. We had the clinician there. We had less than lethal options there. And by less than lethal options, the newest addition to our less than lethal option repertoire is the beanstock shotgun. And we converted all of our lethal Remington 870 shotguns a couple years ago to less than lethal shotguns that literally shoot out a sock with a really, for lack of a better description, beans inside of it. And if you get hit by one of those, it's the equivalent of being hit by a 98 mile an hour fastball. Doesn't kill you, but it definitely gets your attention. We had shields on the scene. We had a patrol rifle on the scene. We had all these things on the scene. You see how that negotiation played out. This 41-year-old man made several statements that, at least to me, and again, the investigation's ongoing, indicated that he was either homicidal or suicidal or both. And you can take that from the statements that he made to the police. He never made a decision to take that replica firearm out of his waistband. And at one point in time, as less than lethal options were being deployed, the officer who was on the scene with the lethal option, and that's consistent with our training to have less than lethal options and lethal options both on the scene at the same time, the officer who deployed the lethal round that ended up causing a non-fatal injury made an independent decision because she saw he was armed, saw he was agitated, and kept seeing him go again and again and again to his waistband where the firearm was being kept. And you can see that when we slowed down this package and we put a circle around that firearm that was in the back of his waistband. So those are the folks who were at the scene. I don't think we could add an element to that scene that could have helped us create the potential for a safe outcome. And what I always like to tell people, in spite of our best efforts and the right people at the scene, from time to time, every outcome isn't going to be like the one you draw up because the decisions the person in crisis makes. And again, I would describe this 41-year-old man as a person in behavioral crisis, mental health crisis. I'm not going to comment beyond that. I think that's obvious to a layperson that he was in crisis. I'm not going to comment on his criminal history. I'm not otherwise going to comment on his mental health history. But it's obvious that he was in crisis. So if he refuses to, for whatever reason, whether he's homicidal or suicidal, to eventually comply with repeated, well-articulated demands, negotiations to comply, then sometimes the police are left with no other option than to protect his mother and sibling who are in the house, right? They're still in the house. It's a cul-de-sac community. All the neighbors, we're protecting them and we're protecting ourselves. So the deployment of the less than lethal force and ultimately the deployment of the lethal force that resulted in a non-fatal injury certainly appears to be in compliance with the law and our policies. But the investigation will continue to play out. but it's the mental health crisis, and I don't use those words lightly, that seems to be present in our country right now, particularly with adult sons in particular still living at home with their aging parents. And that's something we've seen in Fairfax County over the years, is something that continues to concern us. So I'll pause there for questions. Josh?
Thank you, Chief. Couple things. You said that man isn't charged. Is he now charged with anything? Are charges forthcoming? Can you speak to that?
Josh, he didn't commit a crime, but the scenario was a scenario that we couldn't walk away from. If we turn our backs on this 41-year-old man, armed with a replica firearm, armed with 2 chainsaws, armed with a blowtorch, and armed with an axe, because there's no immediate crime, then we put his mother, his sibling, and the entire neighborhood in jeopardy because the police turned their back. And we're not in the business of turning our backs. And it's a dangerous profession, continues to be a dangerous profession, but we did the right thing trying to negotiate him. We wanted to take him into custody at the time for the purpose of a mental evaluation. And we never got that opportunity because he continued to fail or refuse to disarm himself.
And I want to be clear, I know it is obvious from the video that he was having a crisis, that he was armed with, a number of different things, eventually a lethal firearm. Did he shoot at your officers at all, or he didn't charge at them? It didn't seem like it in the video. I know you had to do what had to be done, but I just want to make sure that he didn't also fire or charge in the direction of officers.
No, Josh, he did not.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we live in a society where we don't have to ask police officers to only consider a deadly force option when they're being shot at. That's not anything, I think, consistent with community expectations. Certainly nothing I would ever ask any Fairfax County police officer to do. But his immediate capacity to take that firearm, and again, why did we think it was a firearm? Because we saw it, number one. And number two, he was telling us it was a Sig Sauer firearm P226, which we know to be an actual firearm. It ended up not being a actual firearm. It was a BB gun of some sort. But the fact that he suggested that it was repeatedly and adamantly suggests to me, as someone who's been doing this job for a long time, that perhaps he was suicidal. And we know throughout time that people will push the envelope in an effort to have a suicide by police scenario. And maybe that was one of the things that was going through his mind.
Just watching that, having seen the 2 beanbag rounds shot off, and it seems like almost right after was the lethal, firing of an actual bullet. Just wondering if you can walk us through what the protocol is for that. Obviously, I think you said that the officer saw him reaching or something. What happened there?
Yeah, she did. So the officers who were about 40 feet from this 41-year-old man who deployed less than lethal rounds, only one of the 2 officers who were about 40 feet from him deployed the less than lethal shotgun rounds. And we don't even know that if those rounds struck him, because he was moving back and forth. There were some trash cans that he kind of put himself in front of himself to establish some type of element of concealment or cover. So we don't know if those beanstock rounds took effect. So independent of those 2 officers who are 40 feet away from him is another officer who is the lethal force option about 100 feet away from him. And what she saw from her vantage point was this man armed, and she saw it, and she described it, and she's described it to our detectives with a firearm that he kept reaching for repeatedly. So her independent decision to deploy lethal force was something that she made based on what she saw in that moment. So the proximity to the 2 less than lethal rounds and the lethal round is something that we're looking at, because it bodes the question of, should there be some type of gap or pause? And the answer is no. If there is a perception of a deadly threat in real time, and there seemed to certainly be a real-time perception of deadly threat, then the deployment of that lethal force is something that ultimately our detectives will look at, and if it's consistent with the law and consistent with the policy, we'll say it that way.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Dana?
Chief, just want to confirm, Officer Diana Thomas, that's the woman we could hear in the body-worn camera video, correct? Or that wasn't her voice?
So the voice you hear is the patrol sergeant who is
Okay.
negotiating with this man.
Okay.
And she was the primary negotiator. And sometimes she was successful in getting him to put down his chainsaws or his blowtorch or his axe, and sometimes she wasn't. So she had some level of rapport established with him, and she's crisis intervention trained. She's a veteran officer. So the voice you hear is the sergeant communicating with this man.
Okay, so we actually don't, so Officer Thomas, but I think you mentioned she's also crisis? No.
So the
she's part of
officer,
that
the
team?
officer who deployed her patrol rifle
Yes.
from 100 feet away, which is lethal force, but in this particular scenario, it resulted in a non-fatal injury. She is not only crisis trained, but she is one of our crisis intervention team officers who goes out to work every day with literally a clinician in her car. So I'm glad you asked that question. She's a co-responder team. And one of the questions we always get, would a co-responder team have made a difference? In this particular case, if we would have prematurely or with an abundance of enthusiasm asked a clinician to put herself in a position to be 40 feet away from someone armed with multiple weapons, I think that wouldn't have been prudent for us to do. We would have put her in harm's way. But for this community to know that not only does their police department have a commitment to co-responders, the co-responder team was on the scene. It couldn't be used for a variety of reasons, mainly safety reasons. But we also have a commitment as a police department to ensure that there's significant supervisory and command ranks in real time at these scenes as well. And that's why we had a major at the scene, we had a lieutenant at the scene, and the voice that you hear is a sergeant negotiating with this man in crisis. All right, well, thank you all for your patience. I know it's unusual to present two at the same time, but consistent with the transparency release policy that we established just a few years ago, we don't want to go beyond our 30-day promise to the community to release these videos. And thank you all for coming.